then I feel like people go 7:30.
Oh, yeah. I got you. Right. Well, I've switched it's just setting up the Zoom meeting now.
All right, great.
Redirecting to YouTube.
Let me know when we're going. I guess we are going.
Yeah, I think so. Well, Elliot's just been booting off a little bit because he wanted me to read him a story.
All right. Can you hear me all right?
Oh, that's weird. I've actually got myself on in the background. Right, I've just turned it off. That was so bizarre. I had it on in the background set up, and I literally just heard the conversation that we just had. I was like,
all right.
That's interesting. Yeah, so we are now live. I'll also hit record in a moment. Everyone who's just tuning in, this is Andy. Andy's one of my favorite artists that isn't a comic book person. So that makes you one of one. I suppose there's quite a few of you now. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you good.
Excellent. Right, let's get this show on the road. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I know that I've asked a lot of people of late, asking people for their time just to come in and say hello and do all this sort of stuff. So without further ado, Annie knows the rules. No swearings. No nothing rude. Not that you're that kind of guy anyway. I thought you said you're wearing a suit.
Not tonight. I said the dry cleaners.
Let me down. And joining me today on this very special edition of the British Baseball Podcast, the baseball family would like to welcome back Andy Brown, the fantastic artist. He's working on the Negro Baseball League charity fundraiser for the museum. Andy, how are you doing?
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much, Matt. Very busy. It's been a busy, hectic week and a lot more before that, planning it and getting everything together for the piece of work behind me here.
Yeah, it's a fantastic. Oh, it's coming on nicely, that.
Yeah, today was Ray Dandridge. So I've just got Ray Dandridge down here in the bottom left. So that's 5 players in. We've still got 4 more to go and 4 more to fit in. So it's, as ever with this sort of work, it's, yeah, you don't know what's coming next because I don't know who the next player is going to be. So it's just a matter of trying to piece it together and try to make it compositionally make some sense. Technically make some sense and to hopefully reflect the history and the stories of these gentlemen.
Yeah, I've got a question that I want to ask you in relation to actually. But before I do that, for people that haven't heard our episode before, like early in the year, Andy was a guest when he spoke about his adventures across America when he famously painted all the baseball stadiums live. So that's pretty much what you're famous for, isn't it, Andy?
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm probably most renowned for. But as you know, the pandemic has put a stop to my ballpark painting. So I've been in the UK and kind of had to alter things a little bit. So I've been doing more studio-based stuff. So I've turned my parents' hut in the garden into my studio, and I'm working here now.
Yeah, it's a nice little tour that you gave us before of the hut.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's bigger than my house I used to live in. So why is it, Andy, that you do what you do? How do you get involved in art?
I don't think you get involved. I think it's involved in you. That's how it was for me. I feel like from an early age, it was my thing and my greatest interest. And it's just always been that way, you know. I've always painted, always drawn. I guess I've always had an ability there. So, and I've worked on that, and that's been my life really. And you know, I spent 20 years, just under 20 years, teaching art. 10 years overseas in South Korea, which is where I kind of learned about baseball and got into baseball, and started painting the ballparks. And yeah, it's just a lifelong fascination, lifelong passion, really.
Yeah, is this the third piece that you've done that's like that behind you? You did the Yankees one and the Dodgers piece.
I've done three dream teams prior to this one. So I did an all-time because with the lockdown, when I first got back down here and the lockdown came into effect, I had to find something to do, really. And I started to think, well, it'd be cool using Twitter and I like the idea that in sport, everyone's got, their own teams, they've got their own biases, your favorite player. Everyone has their own favorite player in whatever sport you follow. And it might be because, you were 8 years old at the time. So you thought that guy was the coolest guy or the coolest player on the team. It might be that they've done something really historic or really groundbreaking. So I always find that's quite interesting, that debate that we can have about who was the greatest. What does that really mean? And then of course you have all the things to do with people's flaws and the character traits, where our heroes and what that really means. So I started doing an all-time dream team where I got people on Twitter to suggest who they thought was the best first baseman, second baseman, and so on, and then put them into polls, and then people were voting for them, and whoever won the poll would go onto the canvas. So I did an all-time dream team. A Dodgers one, a Yankees one, and then this is the Negro League one, which I've had in my mind for quite a while. Since I started doing it, I thought, it'd be kind of cool to do a Negro League dream team. But this Negro League Baseball Museum's event that's just come up this October was a perfect opportunity. Everything that I kind of wanted to try and do with this is it's all just come around. So it's been absolutely fantastic, and incredible experience so far.
Yeah, you've got a really unique take on how you're creating this piece as well, aren't you? Because I know for myself, my knowledge on the Negro League players and the actual league itself is not that great. But you've come up with a really clever way of helping people pick their players this time. It's not just a Twitter poll. You've actually got some experts in to talk about it.
Yeah.
Exactly. How did you think about that one?
Well, it was more for it was in some ways for my benefit as well. I feel like we all know as baseball fans, I feel like we all know a few players from the Negro Leagues, and we know like the very best, or the ones with the best nicknames or wherever it is. But we know just a few. And I feel like, and we talked about in the discussions that I've had, we don't really know about the second best shortstop or the third best shortstop, or the in between players. And I feel like there's a lot that needs to be talked about there, because the top players were very, very, very good. But as I found out in the panel of discussions that I've had with the people, I've been talking to authors about the Negro Leagues, Sabre, Negro League committee members. Two of the people on the panel that I've been talking to were responsible for the inductions at the Hall of Fame in 2006, the last set of inductions for the Negro League players into the Hall of Fame. So these people really know, the histories, and they really know all about the Negro League. So it's been really interesting for me to talk to them about all the players, but the suggested players, and for them to present the cases for each player and why that player was so great. And there's a huge amount to it. It's incredible, and it's from my understanding, but hopefully other people can see the videos and see the discussions and learn a little bit more themselves. And I feel like hopefully just broaden the history and broaden the knowledge. Having taught art for, like I say, just under 20 years, I know the power of a painting and what that can teach and what that can do for people. So there's all those things in it there.
Yeah, and the really good thing about the interviews that you had as well is that it will outlast the project that we're doing, because there's so much in there and discussions and about these incredible athletes. So it will stand the test of time. So it's kind of like a piece of art in itself.
It's a really neat way of doing it. And like you say, the polls will be done, the dream team painting, this one will be done, but the actual discussions will be there. And also the three people I've got discussing their expertise is superb. So it's been incredible to have them on board and giving me their expertise and their time and sharing that with us all, really.
Yeah. Can you talk us then through the process when it comes to creating this piece? I know we touched on a bit at the start of the video. When it comes down to this, do you have it in your head like you've already pre-selected the players that you're going to vote for?
Yes.
But how do you sort of envision it on the camera? Have you already got like scenarios played out in your head? So if player 1 gets selected with player 2 and player 3, so like a really crazy like math equation.
No, my brain can't think that far ahead. I mean, that'd be fantastic, but no, definitely not. I guess I'm a, like I said, like from an early age, I've been into art, so I'm always looking at paintings and composition and how paintings work, and in teaching, that's what I was doing a lot of that, explaining to students how paintings work. So there's a few tips and tricks, and from painting for ever since I was quite young, then I feel like I can use technical things and little devices, mechanisms to kind of create a composition. So in my head, starting certainly, I started, for example, with Oscar Charleston. He was the first outfielder voted in at the top here. So I've got him up there and he's looking into the canvas this way. So that just helps me set up the rest of the painting. I know that he's going to kind of act as a mechanism which will push the viewer, you guys, to looking over there. And then hopefully I've got somebody on this side, which I have now, which is Pop Lloyd, who's looking a bit more straight on, but a little bit in as well, which kind of brings you back in. So what I'm trying to do is try and make it so that there's a continuation. There's a kind of a relationship between all the elements that go in, but it isn't necessarily easy to do, and especially with these guys, because there's not so many photos and the quality of the photos aren't as good. If I'm looking for photos of Babe Ruth, then there's lots and lots and lots. But of course that speaks about the history as well. So there's reasons why these things don't exist anymore. So it's very different. And there's certainly not with these guys. I'd say there's not as many photos of them in action as you'd get with Babe Ruth or I don't know, Ty Cobb or, whoever else we want to talk about.
Yeah, that's really cool. So you talked about the power of color before. What sort of things would you teach your students when it comes down to that sort of thing?
To do with color? Well, I mean, it's huge. I mean, it's huge. You can if you want it, I mean, a general, very, very basic one is that if you want to grab attention, then you can use a hot color, like a red, a yellow, an orange. Cool colors tend to recede. So, and also, like, I can play around with the depth of these players using the tone and the detail as well. If you add more detail into something, it will come close to our attention. If there's something in the background that's not so well lit or it's more blurry, it's going to sit back. So again, I can start playing around with those sorts of things, but it's kind of hard to do that when you don't know the overall composition or what's going to be in it exactly. But you can kind of, I think with a bit of experience and looking at enough paintings, you can kind of work out, okay, you can have a rough kind of strategy, and then you've just, but that, it was always part of the fun, because I never knew, it was not a normal way, or it's not, certainly not for me, a normal way to do a painting. Normally I'd be at a ballpark, I've got the ballpark in front of me, and I kind of work out how I want the painting to sit on the canvas and, start adding things in. And prior to that, even then, you'd usually have a composition or a design, or somehow you'd have everything you kind of need. There might be a few things that change on the way. But this is like, you start off with one thing, one person that that's going in, the first person who's voted in. And then after that, you don't know who's coming next. So it's just a matter of, right, okay, what's the way I can try and get this together? So there's a load to it, though. I mean, I can't give you a short answer, because I feel like it's years and years and years, and you have to do it. I mean, I feel like it's a lot of you practicing it and doing it yourself is really the only way to learn it and to really understand it fully.
Okay, cool. That's cool. What in your opinion then is integral to the work of an artist?
Say again, sorry, mate.
What in your opinion is integral to the work of an artist?
I think you've got to mean it. I think you have to mean it. It's got to have if you're not into it, then don't do it. And I feel like that with that in everything in life. Like if you're not fussed, then don't bother. And I feel like if you're going to paint, and if you're going to be an artist, or you're going to do this sort of work, then you've got to really mean it. You've got to mean it 110%. You can't, like, I can't, but again, maybe that's just me, but I just feel like you can't do it half. Like, it just won't work. And people will see it in the work. Like, I don't think it works if you just half do it. And there's a lot of pitfalls on the way with it. Of course, there's you need to get paid. You want to get paid. You need to survive. But if you do it just solely for the money, then again, I feel like you're going to trip yourself up. It's got to be because you really love it and you really want to do it. I mean, I love just painting, and I love like you can't really see in the screen here because it's a bit blurry there, I guess. But I love the qualities of paint. Like, paint is this material that you can mix and change the colors and change the tones. You can make it thicker, you can make it thinner. There's all these beautiful qualities to it, which you can just play around with, and you can mold and you can shape. And I can take, this tube of blue paint or black paint, and I can make it look like, Cool Papa Bell or something. And it's that sort of thing of just being able to shape and create and mold. I find that quite fascinating, and I love it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that amazes the most. Just looking at the work that you've done and looking at the piece in the background. So this is probably at the point, if you listen to this on the audio and the podcast, I'd probably say if you get a chance to watch this on YouTube, just to have a look at Andy's work, because he has got it on display in the background, it's well worth doing. But it does it. It's the one thing that's always amazed me about art is how something as simple as like a blob of paint can be turned into something like that, and it's the skill that's involved in it is incredible. It's why it's art, I suppose. It's just mind-blowing.
It can be turned into anything. That's the thing I love about it, is that you can do anything with it. You can do it. You can make a figurative painting. You can make an abstract painting. You can be any age, effectively. You know, it's wonderful.
Yeah. How would you best describe your style? What like if you just describe yourself as an artist, how would you describe it?
I mean, I'm relatively traditional in my approach, I guess. You know, I'm quite technical, I'd say. But I always think that especially like the ballpark stuff, probably more than this, is a bit more impressionistic, expressionistic. You know, using color to express emotions. The impressionists like Monet and Manet and Degas and people like that, you know, capturing the moment, and that's always a big part of my work when I'm outside painting. I'd say with these works, it's more studio based. You're building up this piece over time. And I was a big fan when I was a art student, or a young art student. I remember 14, 15, seeing Lucian Freud. I think he's the grandson, I'm not sure his great grandson, but of Sigmund Freud. And if you see his paintings, the texture of the paint, he always talked about like the paint being like skin. And that's kind of how I feel like I go to here, where the brush marks and the texture is really quite essential to it, to make the face is really a face. It's not just a painted surface. I want to make it actually really into a cheek and really have some feel to it.
Do you use any particular? Are you oil paint or are you acrylic? What's your preferred?
This is oil. I mean, around me here, I've got oils and acrylics, and I do a lot of watercolor and gouache. I mean, I draw a little bit as well, but I do whatever. I guess it's whatever is needed for the project or the thing, because you know, oils take a good couple of days to dry at the very least, just to be touch dry, I guess. So you can't be, and but you can't really be traveling around too much with oils. But I have done it, but it's, you know, you get paint on the rental car and on your clothes and other fans and whoever else is near you. So it's a bit of a disaster, it can be. But yeah, I mean, whatever I need. If I'm in my sketchbooks, then it's watercolors mostly, because they dry quick and you can fold it up and you can move on. But it you know, it varies on the subject and also a little bit my mood, but mostly kind of depends on the practical reasons. But oil paint, for me, you can't beat. I mean, it's got the longevity and there's a lush quality to it. So I love that as a medium.
What do you enjoy doing the most?
Probably oils. But watercolor, I mean, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't really matter, to be honest, Matt. Like, I love using oils, but you know, if you can give me a scene or something that inspires me, and you can give me a pencil or a bit of chalk or whatever it is, I'll be all right. That'll be fine.
Do you ever do anything like with paint, like get a feel of it before you start using it? I'm not like finger painting, but like, is that an important thing to sort of know, like the thickness and the quality of the materials you're working with, or just like bleep it, on it goes?
I guess you probably have that feeling through your brush. You know, I you know, when you're mixing the paint, or when you're getting the paint, or when I'm putting it on the canvas, then I can then start control. It's, you know, it's all generally, you know, I feel like you start the painting off, and then you have to start correcting all the mistakes you've made, and you're just pushing paint around, and it's just, but it's that art of getting the right. You just want to get the right movement or the right like stroke of the paint where it just works, and you might spend, I don't know, a good few hours and it just won't work, and then all of a sudden it's just there, and it's just how you wanted it to be. Or it just sits well with the rest of the painting. Sometimes you have a really great piece, but the rest of the painting, you might do something really, really well, but it just doesn't work with the rest of the painting. So you have to kill that bit off, and you have to rework that bit. So it's technically I think that's why you never stop learning with it. There's never an end point, I don't think.
Yeah. How do you keep on top of your game then?
Just keep doing it. I mean, you can't talk about it. You can't just talk about it. I mean, you have to do it. If you want to be good, then you just got to do it. You've got to do it, and you also got to look at artists. I've always, you know, I'm surrounded by my books here, and you've got to keep looking at, you know, you've got to keep looking at other artists. Keep looking at Picasso. How did he make those lines? Like, you just got to keep doing that sort of thing. And finding new artists, finding new people that inspire you, new ways of working, being open, I guess, as well. But all of those sorts of things.
That's cool. So with your stadiums and your portraits, which you prefer doing most, your stadiums or your portraits?
Um, they're both good. I'm trying to think, what would I prefer? I like both. They're very different, Matt. I mean, I love the stadium work. We've talked about it before. I love being in the stadium. I love being at an event. I love that atmosphere. I love the noise. I love the smells. I love all that sort of thing. When I'm in here, it's a small environment that's surrounded me is my books and my other easels and my other paintings and my music and my podcasts. British Baseball Podcast, very good one. And I've got this environment that I can control, and I've got and it's mine, and it can be very, very quiet, it can be very, very noisy, it can be very messy, it can be very tidy, it can be whatever I want it to be. And it's a very different approach. It really is. It's completely different. Like this, we're talking about, this has been pretty quick, and it's been, I don't know, 6 days or something, and it will probably take, I don't know, it's going to take another 5 days at least. I mean, this is going quick for one of these paints. This is going quick. I'm kind of trying to push it for this event. But whereas the stadium paintings, it's done in one shot, it's done in one sitting at the games, and it's such a different approach. And there it's all wet on wet. It's all the paint's wet. Here I can let the paint dry. I can scrape it off a bit if I want. I can go back over areas. This isn't all finished yet. I mean, there's still, Ray Dandridge still needs some work on him, but there's bits down here where you can see Oscar Charleston's legs kind of coming through the shirt of Cool Papa Bell. And I might paint over that, but again, I'm not sure. I kind of like the idea that the more I've learned about these players, the more the experts talked about how all these guys are related to each other in terms of they mentored each other, they played on the same teams, they're obviously very, very close to each other. So I feel like the history of these guys is so like woven together. And again, I kind of like how that works in the paint, so there's decisions that I have to make as I go along.
Yeah. Has there been any player that you sort of really wanted to be on there that's not been on there yet for either like the story's been really good, or
yeah,
you just like the way that he looks for the painting?
There's definitely, it's not that I wanted one more than the other, but there's certainly been players that I thought, wow, their story was fantastic, or they're really interesting, or I feel like there's Chino Smith, and he was outstanding. When you talk about him, or you look at I've got his stats here. So his slugging was 659. But he died very early. He died at about 31 years old. So he only played, I think it was for about 7 years, but he was superb. I mean, superb. The panel of experts who I was talking to were saying about how good he was. And he would have been he would have been easily in the Hall of Fame if it hadn't probably been for his early death. But so you have players like that, but I'm just glad that we've had the chance on the conversation to talk about him, and hopefully, I think you might know his name now. And I just feel like, well, that's one more person who knows his story, knows his name, knows about this incredible player. There's the Cuban players as well that we've talked about, like Martin Dehiguio, who I was in Cuba last year, and I loved it. And it was really cool to have some Cuban players coming on the painting, or to be suggested for the painting. And to hear more about their history and how they got from Cuba into the Negro Leagues. So it's good just to for my knowledge, and I feel like for the history, hopefully it just broadens it and opens it up even more.
Yeah. What is it then that the Negro Leagues mean to you?
I think it's a lesson, isn't it? I think there's a big story there, and there's a big lesson. It's important that these stories are remembered, and you think, in the political climate, even maybe at the moment, you feel like, there's so many stories within these players' lives, and what they had to endure and go through. And I think it's really important to remember those things and talk about them and understand them, and hopefully learn from them. I think that's to me, I feel like, it was, you got some incredible players, but the situations and the fact that it was the way it was in some ways, like, very sad, of course. So yeah, I think that's it. I think it's the stories, it's the lessons we can learn, and hopefully we're better for them. That would be my hope.
Yeah. Listen to the Sabre experts talk. Have you found yourself any new favorite players from what they've told you?
Well, to be honest, all of these guys, and everyone we talk about, it's all, there's I didn't realize how good some of these guys were, and how highly rated they were. And I think, who is it, Pop Lloyd, Babe Ruth said, Pop Lloyd up here, Babe Ruth said he was the best player he ever saw. And it's things like that which you just think, wow, like that's Babe Ruth saying that. And then you've got the Bill James, analytics, who he said that Oscar Charleston was the fourth best player ever, behind Willie Mays and Babe Ruth and Honus Wagner. Chino Smith we talked about, but there's yeah, I mean, it's just fascinating to me. It's just another gold mine of information and intrigue and stories, and it's an incredible learning experience.
Yeah. How did you get involved in the project?
I got a message from the coordinator, Mr. Tad Richardson, at Curveball Keepsakes on Instagram. So check that out. So he got in touch and he kind of told me about it, and yeah, I was in. But I wasn't sure I was going to do one of these paintings, because I really wanted. I was hoping I wanted to have somebody who had the knowledge to be able to share the knowledge and educate, because I didn't want it to be coming from me, because I don't know, or didn't know much at all, and I'm still learning. I've still got a huge amount to learn. I still don't know much, so I wanted to have that support, where there was somebody who actually knew what they were talking about, kind of telling us about these players, because I just didn't think it would be right otherwise. So to begin with, I didn't know if that'd be possible, and at times it didn't look like it was going to be possible, and it's all come around. It's all working, and it's been brilliant.
Yeah, I know what you mean there about the But when I was asked if I'd like to do some interviewing for it, I was like, yes, definitely, because I don't know enough, and I'm kind of embarrassed by it. But at the same time, I sort of, well, I'm going to say something really daft now. My specialist field, and I'm doing little quotation marks, is British baseball, and I've never really sort of ventured that deep into the history of the Major League and the Negro Leagues. I was aware of it, but it was not something that I was like actively seeking out.
Yeah.
But now I've had a taster.
Yeah.
I'm at the buffet table of knowledge, and it's like I want more courses. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about it, is that you can't help but want to know more about these stories of these athletes. And so for me, it's become this thing was like I didn't really want to get involved because I was a bit like I don't know the players, but so that's why I came with the angle like with what I do with my show.
Yeah, right.
I can ask people and I can learn on the job.
Right.
And I'm really glad that I did, because some of the things that I'm finding out is just like, yeah. And these players do deserve to have the time in the sun. I mean, for me, it was I knew like of Papa Bell and Satchel Paige, but that was like literally it. And it's like I couldn't name anybody else. And now, like you said before, I've got all these videos at my disposal, and there's so much more out there now, and it's documented. And I said your videos will stand the test of time, because it's not dated. It's all accurate information from experts, and it's really interesting as well. I'll make sure that I put links to the channel in the show notes so people can watch it. So even if you not had a chance to vote on Andy's work, you can go back there and just look at the amazing stories and get involved. So it's really cool. So let's go back to you for a couple of minutes. Who have been your biggest influences in your work?
Well, kind of the people that I talked about before, really. I mean, Lucian Freud's, all the Impressionists, or not all the Impressionists, but Monet and Van Gogh and
Harry Enfield.
I was thinking about Rembrandt earlier. Like, there's a very famous painting by Rembrandt of it's called The Night Watch, and it's I was going to look at it before this because I've been thinking about it the last few days, but it's a whole group of a night watch in Amsterdam in the mid 1600s, I guess, and there must be about, I don't know, 20 or faces, individual portraits in there, and the way it's constructed, the way it comes together, and the way it works, the way that Rembrandt uses the light and the shadows to create this drama and all this, there's this is why you can't stop looking at art, because there's all the answers are there. You've got to look back at it and find out, right, how do you control these things?
I think I might know the answers because I spoke to you about it before. But are there any real life situations that have inspired you
in terms of painting?
Yeah. I suppose the example I can think of it with the real life situations that comes to my mind is your stadiums.
Yeah.
But have you got a favorite piece from your stadium work?
Well, I think talking about inspiration or talking about that thing is it's that's quite peculiar in some ways, because I feel like what inspires me may not inspire other people. We all have our own thing where, you know, you look at my paintings, you look at somebody else's paintings, it's going to be different subject matter. It's going to be presented in a different way. The colors are going to be different. Like there's so many different ways you can do it. And I feel like for me, there's always been something to do with atmosphere or this communal gatherings or this event, this sense for an event. Or I've always been really fascinated with like stories in paintings. And, you know, I've talked about on Backflips, the Ambassadors by Hans Holbein the Younger, painted in the 1500s. That painting, like the stories just within that painting, the little secret hidden meanings and the little messages that the artist puts in there. And the stories about the two ambassadors in the painting, for me, those are like, I find those things inspiring. So that's again what I feel like my work goes between those kind of two avenues. But you know, it varies from person to person. But you know, yeah, it is that, you know, if a stadium or some sort of event and people are getting together and there's an atmosphere. I love it.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier as well that finding new artists is always like a refreshing thing to see. Has there been any piece of work that you've seen recently that you've come across and has been blown away by?
You know what? Actually, there was a piece that yeah, well, there's a few. I mean, there's a few. I mean, I'm always looking at stuff. So I mean, there's an old art critic, Matthew Collins, who makes who during the lockdown he's been doing some pencil drawings. I love his work, and they're very much about art history and kind of fictional kind of art history gatherings. And you know, his pieces of work that I've seen recently, like I love looking at his work. They to me are, they're looking at all the myths of an artist and of the art world and culture and what it means. And you know, I love looking at his work. Tim Stoner is another artist I'm a huge fan of, the way he paints, the way he works. So I mean, yeah, but I mean, every day I'm looking at stuff. Tom Pringles today, he sent me a picture by Cecilia Brown, and I love it. It was fantastic, a very abstract piece, but the skill needed to produce a piece of artwork like that is phenomenal, and it's just beautiful. And yeah, I mean, every day I'm trying to find, I'm looking at stuff and you know, getting just, I always feel it just drip feeds in. The more you don't necessarily, it's not like you just digest it all in one mouthful. It's like it just seeps in slowly through your skin and it's stored somewhere in your body. Hopefully it comes out your hand as your brush.
That's cool. Is there anyone that you've not painted yet, or anything you haven't painted yet that you'd love to do? Maybe either live or from photographs?
More ballparks would be number one, but that's gonna be, you know, in the future, hopefully. No, I just want to keep going with what I'm doing. I want to, you know, I want to travel more and paint more baseball and baseball culture around the world and sports culture. Lately in the UK, you might have seen I'm doing some things to do with like Sunday football, grassroots football. You know, of course, I saw you at the Battle of Britain baseball event a couple of weeks ago in Waltham Abbey, and yeah, I want to just paint more. I want to see, like, how do we relate to this game, and what does it mean to us, and what does it mean to be together and with other people and share an experience and compete and on and on and on. You know,
I think one of the amazing things for actually me being able to see you paint live was just how not simple you made it seem, but like just the way you crafted it, like just there and then, like just popping over every now and then, like with a egg sandwich or whatever weird thing you're eating. Oh, disgusting. Sorry, egg sandwich lovers, but it's only one type of egg sandwich and it's fried with bacon. But you didn't pay for it. Yeah. Oh, see, it lost me train of thought now. This is why I shouldn't waffle and try and be funny. I said a joke before and it went right over everyone's head, and I feel like a plank. But yeah, just being able to see you do what you do and just in intervals of going over and seeing how it develops and how it just expands was awesome. I'd love to see you do a few more of the British grounds, and that's not just an excuse to try and get up to Manchester for another chinwag with a bit of a session.
No, that's on the radar. You know, I've done, I don't know, 9 different countries or whatever. I think I've done MLB London in this country, and of course the Waltham Abbey one the other day. And yeah, of course I need to get to the others in this country now and see baseball here. So it's yeah, you know, there's a lot of painting still to do.
There is indeed. Andy, that sort of brings me to the end of my questions, and in show tradition, I leave the last word open to the guest. So the floor's all yours, mate. Anything you want to say or shout out or promote before we
No,
bounce?
not really. Just thank you very much for having me on. Thank you for listening. And if people want to follow the progress, they can see that on my Twitter page, which is at Andy B is an artist. And
your website?
Website andybrownstadiums.com. But yeah, you should be able to track me down, I'm sure, if you try hard enough.
Yeah, we'll be able to find you. I'll retweet some bits and pieces for you there. As always, Andy, pleasure talking to you. It's like I only spoke to you before, but
thank you, man.
Yeah, always a pleasure to have you on. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you very much. You too. Take care.
Oh, before we part as well, dugoutclassics.com. That's how you can get involved in the prize draw for some of the stuff.
Oh, yes.
And so www.dugoutclassics.com. Right, mate, I'll chat to you in a bit.
Nice one. Cheers, mate.
Ta-ra. Right, I've stopped recording there, but we're still live on YouTube. I thought we'd give people a bit of insight into the after process of a podcast episode. How was it for you?
Very good, mate. We're going to do this, are we? All right.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Think this is like bonus content on the DVD. I can put my questions away.
All right.
All my questions. I don't know how I can make an A4 piece of paper into a 20-minute show and then have like a Kit Kat wrapper with a couple of questions jotted out, turn into an hour and a half episode. Oh, it's beyond me.
I've got a question for you then. Are you going to watch the football match tonight?
Who's playing?
England, Wales, which tells me you're not going to watch it in that case.
No, I've fallen out of love with football, mate. That's a whole different.
Is that because you're a Bolton fan?
Partly, yeah. I think it's no. It's I think if you've been in the Premiership and then you've seen the riches of it and it's all taken away, you soon realise maybe how much of a bad thing the Premiership can be. Because once that money's gone and then you're in the bracket of you have to live off your own wage and then the mismanagement of the club. I mean, we almost lost.
You have that rug taken from beneath you, don't you?
Yeah. Well, the founding members of football, no, I'm not saying that bragging like as a Bolton fan, but they were one of the founding members of football. They've got like a big history involved in the game.
Yeah.
And it was nearly snuffed out. And you've got with the whole COVID crisis as well at the moment.
Yeah.
All these clubs that are like, we need cash.
Yeah.
And you've got over 1.25 billion spent in the Premiership on transfers, and they're umming and ahhing over donating a few million quid, which they probably don't need because they're getting a ridiculous amount of money every season anyway.
Yeah.
I don't run a football club, which is quite obvious for anyone that's ever seen me try and attempt maths. I really need evolution to give me like 2 more digits. But it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense how these teams are not looking out for the smaller clubs to try and do it feed in, and it's just left a real nasty taste in my mouth. The way that the EFL allowed someone as corrupt as a chairperson that we had beforehand, and the way that was mismanaged and stripped, and it was disgraceful. It was just rotten. Something really bad about the way it was done, and we're a couple of spots off the bottom of the lowest tier of English football.
Mm-hmm.
And it's it gives me too many headaches that I don't really need. And to be honest with you, I don't really miss. The only thing that I feel like I'm going to miss is taking the little one to football matches. Like when my dad took me and my sister to our first football game, so I remember Burnham Park, friendly against Liverpool, and we won. I think Robbie Fowler was like 17 or 18 years old making his debut, and Matt Manniman and Redknapp, and David James was in there, and we had awful pies. And those memories from that and everything, like from the old standing terrace and the family stands behind the goals.
Uh-huh.
And I look at it now and it's like, oh, please, Elliot, just like baseball or rugby or anything. Like, it'd be a different story if it was gone. I'd be devastated if I lost my football team. But I'm finding other ways of supporting them and following them. It's just, it's
not for you.
I bet you're glad you asked now, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I got the answer to my question pretty firmly, so I know you're not going to watch it.
No, it does, mate. And like, I saw it the other day about some footballers that went to someone's house for a birthday party.
Oh, yeah.
They've got the backside kits. It's like, there's a pandemic. There's a pandemic.
Yeah,
Stop being fools. Like, why can't you just do as you're told for 3 minutes? It's like, oh, because I'm on £300,000 a week. And what have I done? I've made 3 substitute appearances. and that's it. I had a cup run 2 years.
Matt, can I just stop you there? You're sounding fantastically like Alan Partridge here on a rant. I love this. It's an AP rant right there.
And normally, folks, after an episode has been recorded, we talk about, was it good for the guests? Is there any bits you'd like to redo and go over and record again? It's not me having a rant about the state of English football. And another thing about the Premiership, it takes up too much screen time. There are so many minor league sports out there: ice hockey, basketball. You've got to put baseball in there too. That get hardly any coverage. Field hockey. Look at all these sports during the Olympics that people go mental for after it's been the Olympics. Volleyball. I don't even throw extreme frisbee in it. Lacrosse.
How many of these are you going to watch, Matt?
I'll watch it if it's on, but it's not on, is it? Because everyone's about the Premiership.
Sport again.
Yes. Sport. Bring it back. Let's start a petition.
That was the program that set you up there.
But I noticed how ridiculous it was when I was listening to Talk Sport on the way home from work, and you'd have a news section and they talk about sport in the news section, and then they go into the sport. Well, it's not sport, it's football. And if they've got a cricketer on as a special host, they'll talk a little bit about cricket. Or if there's a boxer on, they'll talk a little bit about boxing. It's all about Premiership and nothing else. And it's just boring. Boring.
I'm going to have to look on you, Alan.
But yeah, I think if the Premiership wasn't as big, and I suppose it is good for the country because of the tourism aspects of it. But
yeah, I mean, it's very much our national, or part of our national identity, isn't it? Right, whether you like it or not. And at times, of course, I don't like things associated with that necessarily, but it's a huge part of who we are. And yeah, it's a
lot of other sports don't really get a look in, do they?
It's a world sport. It's everywhere. Everywhere you go, you can see kids kicking a ball around in the street or a park or on a pitch. It's
ask me again in 10 years' time when the richest person on the planet just bought Bolton Wanderers because they're bored and they're now a superpower. And I'll be like Scrooge McDuck, and across the pitch in a mankini. No, it's just bad. It's bad. It just doesn't make him. Give me sports where you got more respectful players. They're not going to run about in a pandemic, like baseball players, for example. Yeah, Manchester Baseball Club. Everyone's social distance. They definitely
behave themselves. Yeah.
Masks on. The balls are cleaned. Hand sanitizer. Everyone gets the temperature taken. The respect levels there. You listen to any of the podcasts I've done interviews with. Everyone's a cracking individual.
I guess if you're I don't know, if you're mid-20s or young 20s and getting paid a few $1 million, I don't know. Things change a bit, or you want to go.
Yeah. Sign me up. I'll take that gig all day long. Yeah, all day long.
Sounds all right, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sounds all right.
My time's been and gone, mate. Been and gone. I'm not even good at virtual sports anymore. Never mind chuffing actual sports. if we could actually make it onto the field, I've got this thing now at the moment at baseball. Every week I pick up a new injury. I'm collecting them. If it's not stopping ground balls with my shins, it's stopping fly balls with my skull. And I'm just bruised and pulled my hamstring, just like turning to go for a ball that I knew I wasn't going to get.
Yeah, that happens, doesn't it?
It did. As soon as it hit 40, literally, as soon as the clock hit 12 and it became 40, everything just stopped working.
Yeah. It doesn't get any easier, does it?
No. I'm scared to sneeze.
Yeah, that's it. That's why I paint the sports. You can't go and
paint it, as well. You've never pulled an hamstring doing a painting?
Not yet. Not yet, but I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to tempt fate on that one.
No, well, funnily enough, I broke my foot stepping out of a boxing ring, and that was on a Wednesday night, so they're going to a pub quiz. Don't go to a pub. Drinking's bad for your health. Let's go and do some exercise. Gets out of boxing ring, stands on a medicine ball. Snap, there goes my foot. If I've gone to a pub.
Headache, at worst.
I'll take the headache over a broken foot.
Yeah. Fair enough. Right. It's 8:15. That means England versus Wales is a few minutes in.
Go on then, sod off.
I'm going to go and see how many we've scored.
Nice one, mate. Right, we'll take it easy and I'll chat to you in a bit.
Nice one.